Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Authors to Know and Their Books to Read. I'm your host, Martinique Brown. I'm so excited that you have decided to tune into the show today. Today, I have Chalet Jean-Baptiste here on the show, and she's going to tell us more about her book called Black from Scratch. I'm really excited about this book because I just want to hear all about it because it has a very enticing name. So
Yeah.
good job with that. Um, but
Yes.
if this is your first time ever tuning into the show, welcome, welcome, welcome. You are in for a treat. I would love for you to go ahead and share this video now so that more people will learn about Chalet as well as her book and learn more about the show. Also, what we need you to do is follow us on our Facebook page, and I've taken all the worry out of it for you. So, if you're interested in purchasing Chalet's book, make sure you always visit the description box because I have her website there, I have her
Okay.
Facebook page there. Also, I would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is also in the description box. If you truly enjoy these shows that I create, I would love for you to visit my GoFundMe page or my PayPal link, also listed in the description box. You'll hear me say that a lot throughout the show if you're a newbie to this show. But Chalet, thank you for so much for being on
Thank
the
you for
show.
having me. I'm really
You are
excited.
welcome. You are welcome. So, if you could just let the viewers know just a little bit more about yourself.
Yes. Hi. Hello. I'm Chalet Jean-Baptiste. I am an English professor. I also teach communications at Nova, and I've been doing that for about over 15 years now. I really love that. I started out as a writer at an investment firm, and yeah, that's what I do. So I'm excited.
Excellent,
Yes.
excellent. So don't correct me on my grammar. Sometimes I don't
No,
have.
I'm off the clock. I'm off the clock.
I know that's right. I'm not getting paid for that.
Yes.
But why did you feel it was so important to write a book and share individual stories like this?
Well, I wanted to change societal stigmas of Black people. I thought that
Mm-hmm.
was very important. And also to tell Black stories in the way that, it's authentic. We hear so much about Black people and their stories, and some of them are singular in nature. But
Mm-hmm.
the Black story is really diverse, and it's, from all different hues out. And that's one reason why the book has the pictures of people, because I wanted to show the beauty of our people
It's
and really
beautiful,
to
y'all.
tell, yes, to tell stories of Black people from their voice, regular Black people like me, you, not celebrities, but people who have
Mm-hmm.
overcome some amazing obstacles and really made their voice be heard in the world, and have overcome all kind of tragedies and incidents. So I thought it was important to document those stories.
Why did you decide to go the route of just everyday people instead of, our celebrities that we always hear their stories of?
That's a good question, because that was one of my big purposes in doing this book, is to make sure that I highlighted everyday people. Don't get me wrong; these everyday people are amazing, right,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
their
yeah.
own right, and a lot of them own businesses and are CEOs, and just amazing people. So I don't want to diminish who they
Mm-hmm.
are, but I think that celebrities, they get covered all the time.
Yeah.
First of all, the coverage is extensive, and we tend to see ourselves outside of the life of celebrities, right? Like, we don't have their money. We always say, oh, we had the money, maybe we would do that too. We
Uh-huh.
don't have their influence and their power in a way, even though we do have their power.
Mm-hmm.
And so we feel like that a lot of times that experience is distance from us.
Yeah.
So I thought it was important to include everyday people that could be your next door neighbor, that have
Mm-hmm.
overcome some of the same things that you have,
Mm-hmm.
to show that was very important to me.
Definitely. And I feel like it will also help us to engage, like you said, our neighbors,
Yes.
because
Yes.
I do stay in an apartment complex and it is very rare that I see my neighbors. And so,
Well, don't
needing
feel bad, girl, because I stay in the house and I don't see my neighbors either. Okay.
right. But it really should. I feel like your book will really just challenge us to just talk to people and listen to people's
Yes.
stories.
Yes. That's very important that you said that because I'm from New York City, and
Hmm.
being from New York, I've learned to even love strangers and their stories. And
Uh-huh.
so when I moved out here, people were like, oh, Chalet, you just listen to people. Yes, because everybody has a story to tell. And
Hmm.
the stories mean so much to me,
That's good.
And so I continued on that tradition of kind of like storytelling through this book, Black from Scratch.
Hmm.
I think it's important that people read it and see what Black people have overcome
Hmm.
and who we are and how beautiful we are and how amazing we are and what our Blackness means to each individual person.
Hmm. So now I know that you have a very beautiful book cover. So now, do you also include the individual's picture in there?
Yes, I will show you a
Okay,
sample. So what I do is everybody has their own individual layout picture. So do you see this?
I
This is
see
one
it.
of the
This is
featured
good.
person.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then you can see their picture. And then their stories are also on another page. So I made everybody has their picture. I think it's important that we see the picture of the people so that it can be real to us, and
Hmm.
then also to show that Blackness is not just one complexion, that we're all different hues and all different shapes and all different sizes. And so I made sure we had a diversity of Blackness in the book.
That's good. That's good. So how long does a project like this actually take?
Oh my goodness, this one. Oh God, that's a good question. This one took a little extra because there was just some hiccups in it. First time doing
Hmm.
something, there were some hiccups, but if you can get everything organized and be really strategic about it, it doesn't. Maybe you can do it in 6 months to a year. It just depends, But
We
it did
ain't
take a
telling
long
y'all to
time.
do it. We just saying, we
That's
just
right. That's right.
you
I'm gonna be
just
the
she
I'm gonna
already
be
did
the
it.
owners. I'm gonna have a lot of these books coming out.
Yes, that's good. Because there's so many stories that you can tell.
Yes, yes.
Everybody is
I plan to
different.
have second and third
That's
editions.
good.
It's gonna be a movement.
That's good. That is
Yes.
so good. But that really says something about your character, your resilience. Because I feel that, like you said, you had hiccups, but you had a vision, and you said,
Yes.
I'm gonna just push forward."
Oh, girl. I mean, hiccups wasn't the word.
Uh,
There was a point where I just got down on doing this. Like, is it gonna get done?
mhm.
But you know what? Like you said, it was really God. He made me resilient. And I came through it, and it was something it's like birthing a baby. You've come through the end. You're like, oh my God, I'm tired. Is it gonna happen?
Yeah,
When is
yeah.
this baby gonna come? But when it happened, I was so excited and really fortunate that it came out the way it is. And I have so many amazing people that in the book that we were able to really highlight their lives.
That's good. So now, how many stories do you actually feature in the book?
It's over 85 stories.
Wow,
Yes, it's 320 pages. That's why some people are like, oh, the book is expensive. I'm like, it's over 300 full color pages. Yes.
that
Yes.
is so good.
Yes. Yes.
So now, is it themed? Like, are you
Yes.
okay? You can you tell us about the theme?
Yeah, sure. So basically, we
I'm
have
all excited.
yes, the book is broken down into four themes. So you
Okay.
have advice, or maybe a little bit more than that. I'm sorry. So guidance from my 12-year-old self is one. And then we have stories of triumph, professional. We have wisdom for newlyweds. So that's a section where we have a couple of newlyweds. We even have married couples in there. Stories of triumph, marital. So those that are not newlyweds, but were married and just have overcome some great things. And lessons for life. And the last section is stories of triumph, personal. So we had
Okay.
the broken down into sections.
Can you repeat that very first when you talked about the 12-year-old? You mentioned 12.
Yes, yes. So the first one is if I could tell my 12-year-old self. So guidance for my
Oh,
12-year-old
okay.
self. So some people talked about like if I can go back and tell my 12-year-old self something, what would I tell my 12-year-old
Yeah,
self,
yeah.
and it was important for me that we have women, men, and married couples in there,
Mhm.
to show a cohesive Black family structure,
I like that. That is so good
Yes.
that you included married people, because
Yes.
I think that sometimes, like across the board, we hear that Black couples cannot stay together.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I feel that, you know what? I just thought about this. So I think because I was trying to do a show, like a web show, where there
Yeah.
were multiple couples, but it was going to be engaged couples, and then
Yes,
maybe couples that were 1 year, and then couples that's been together
for a long
for like
time. Yeah.
longer, and like just had them converse with one another to help build each other, but
Oh,
more
that's awesome.
so give that information.
Hmm.
But I did not have any couples that wanted to be a part of it. So I was wondering, I was like, why don't they want to be a part of it? But then I start thinking about what makes these couples stay together, and it's probably because people aren't in their business.
Well, you know what? Yes, but you know what? I want to say something, Marcia. I think it's important too that couples share with other couples
Mm-hmm.
because this is a different generation.
Yeah.
Things change. I'm a divorcee, and I think in the Black culture, especially, we're taught that we should keep things in the house. Like everything should be
Mm-hmm.
secretive. You shouldn't tell the business.
Right.
Don't tell nobody your business.
Uh-huh.
But
Uh-huh.
that can be destructive at times. At times it works. It's good, right, that you don't let everybody in your business. But at times you need to know the appropriate people that can mentor you and push you to the next level. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that especially as a culture of people, Black people, we need to really open ourselves up to being more open,
Yeah.
with our stories. And, even those stories, it's not all great, like, hey, my husband cheated on me, but we made it through, or
Mm-hmm.
the stories that's hard to tell,
Yeah.
or we had financial issues, or my husband had an addiction, my wife had an addiction, I stayed with my wife after she cheated. These are things that
Mm-hmm.
will help Black families really stay together, because this generation is different. People just, I'm not in love no more, I want a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you're married for a long time, you fall in and out of love at times.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's important still.
That's good. Well, I'm just happy you got some couples. That
Yes.
is great.
Yes, girl, yes.
So good. So now, is your story in the book?
Yes, my story is the last story in the book,
Okay.
actually.
So now
Yes,
your
and
story is the personal triumph, right?
yes,
Okay.
it is.
Would
Yes,
you like to
yes.
tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So my quote says, to heal myself. So I had to heal myself so I could love myself properly. And in loving myself, I valued myself. That was the quote that was taken out. So we highlight a quote from everybody's story as their like main theme. And it really just talks about how when you begin to, I went through so much trauma in my life. And, even while I was married, I felt like it was not a good marriage for me. It was a bad marriage. It was abusive at times and manipulative. And I had to really go back and go to therapy, and that
Mhm.
T word, therapy, and really
Yeah.
pray and figure out where did it all go wrong. It's easy to blame somebody else when you're in a bad situation, right? But it made me really look at myself and think about, why didn't I value myself enough? Why didn't I love myself enough? And
Mhm.
so when I was able to really, through therapy, through prayer, through like, fasting and really getting before God, because I'm a Christian,
Mhm.
I realized that a lot of the things that I thought was broken because of somebody else was really broken from years of things that I had not dealt with,
Mhm.
like me being sexually molested. So when I began to work through that, it really helped me to love myself. And in loving myself, I value myself. And I'm telling you, when you love, people say love yourself like so easy. They throw
Yeah.
it around, like love yourself, love yourself.
Uh-huh.
But when you love yourself, nobody can treat you a certain way. You
Yeah.
you just don't allow it because you value who you are. So
Mhm.
that's what my story really covers.
But how do you get to that point in your life? Because I know in loving yourself and not tolerating
Yes.
certain treatment of
Yeah.
yourself, then that's when sometimes you tend to be alone.
Oh,
How
yes.
how did you become comfortable with being alone, if especially if it turned into long periods of time?
Well, listen, girl, you speaking to the choir right here,
Uh-huh.
okay? So I must say it's a process. I can't say that in loving myself, in this journey of loving myself, I haven't failed and, thought about settling,
Yeah.
at times in friendships and relationships.
Hmm.
But I think there's always a check in your spirit when you come to a different level of loving yourself, right?
Hmm.
You're like, okay, I have a friend that I often discuss things with, a guy friend who I've been friends with for years since I was a
Hmm.
teenager. And he says, Chalet, what are your non negotiables? And even
Hmm.
my dad said the same thing to me just a week ago. You have to have non negotiables. And when you go through
Mhm.
your list and you say, these are my non-negotiables, and you see yourself sacrificing yourself, even though you've made non-negotiables, then that's when I do a reality check. And we can't be, we're not going to find Jesus, you know what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying? Like, so it can't
Mhm.
be unrealistic. Like, he got to have all these things, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? But it has to be some standards that are set, so that way I know that, hey, I value myself, I love myself, and you got to meet me at least at this point, so that way
Mhm.
we can be on the same page. And if that means that I'm sacrificing a little loneliness for a
Mhm.
lifetime of happiness, I'll
That's
do it.
good.
And I know that might sound cliche, but
Yeah.
I believe God got somebody amazing for me. He not
Mhm.
gonna leave me out there for myself.
Right.
So and I just trust him, you
Mhm.
know. And when you love
That's
yourself, I
good.
think you draw love to you. You know, people
Mhm.
know when you love yourself, you know?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I do believe in that.
So, can you speak to us about the stigma that we have as Black women sometimes, where, okay, well, your standards are too high, and we hear that from Black women, Black men. We also hear that from other races as well. So I know that this guy, he was from another ethnicity. He was telling me, well, that's why you're single,
Oh
because
no.
blase blah, meaning that my standards were too high, and if I was not to have those type of standards, then maybe I could be with somebody. What would you say
Girl,
to those people?
God got somebody wonderful for us, honey. No. No, that's a good question though. I think it's important that you recognize you have to have standards. And actually what makes it worse for us as Black women that are strong is when people don't have standards.
Mm-hmm.
Because it lets so many people get away with things that they would normally not get away with. And so I think it's important for us to have standards, because I think at the end of the day, a quality man will respect a woman with standards.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to be realistic. I think being a Black woman today in this times is just hard. You know, if you look statistically at Black women, and we're very, and this is true, we are very, many of us do only date within our race. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and so we're very we love our Black men. I love Black men, you know.
Yeah.
And so, but sometimes Black men don't feel that way, right? They're willing to date anyone, you know, and there's
Mm-hmm.
not a loyalty that they have for us Black women. And then when you look at the ratio of Black women that are owning businesses, and you know, that are graduating from college, you know, and really are really doing the thing, you know, really doing it,
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs, you know, it's shifted a bit, you know. And I think that's also was set that way. So I won't always say it's not always the Black man's fault. I think that
Mm-hmm.
that was strategic in a way.
Uh-huh.
But I will say it has changed some of the dynamics of relationships. And you know, I think that it's so important that we keep our standards, no matter what they say, oh, we can't have standards. I do think that we do need to check and make sure our standards are not over the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, you know, if I have a list of 20 things, like, oh, I can't date him because he's 10 pounds overweight.
Yeah,
Well, you
yeah.
know, maybe he's the greatest guy for you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we need to be not superficial in our standards, right?
That's
Like
good. Mm-hmm.
we all want somebody who look like Boaz. It's fine, you know. I
Yeah.
love me a Denzel too, you know.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's important that we also look at the character of the man, his heart, and you know, some other things that sometimes we overlook because we think that God is supposed to send us this perfect person, you know.
Mm-hmm. So now, talk to our viewers that are not Black, and
Yes.
how could this book be beneficial for them?
Oh man, this is beneficial for everyone, because I think it's important that people who are not Black get to learn about Black people. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are the only, I think we're one of the races that we learn about every other culture. You know, in schools, they teach us about European culture,
Mm-hmm.
and we learn about all the white historians and great white people that have done great things. Well, I hope that in writing this book that other cultures will come and learn about Black people too,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because especially if you've not been exposed to them, this is the book for you.
Yeah.
Because you know, I mean, just exposure is so important. I went to a school that had almost all white people, and they didn't know
Okay.
anything about Black people. You know, they had
Mm-hmm.
learned what they learned on the news, you know,
Yeah.
heard about Black people, or what their parents taught them, that Black people, you
Mm-hmm.
got to, you know, they're in trouble, they're in jails, you know, this is the stereotype
Mm-hmm.
of Black people. And so some of white people being exposed to me taught them a lesson about, oh wait, all Black people are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So this book is for everyone. I mean, when I read literature, I don't just read about Black literature. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
can recite some Pedro Pietre, who is Puerto Rican. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love Emily Dickinson. You know, I love Pride and Prejudice is one of my favorite, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not, Jane Austen. You know, you asked me, I'm not just a person who's microscopic, that I only
Mm-hmm.
can look at one culture, and so I ask that other cultures also want to know about Black culture, and it's important.
That's good. So now, are you actually the narrator for everybody's story?
Okay, that's a good question. So some people wrote their own stories
Okay.
and submitted it, but some people I kind of like guided their story just to make sure. I try to get as much authenticity as I could,
Mm-hmm.
out of the story. So a lot of them I was like, okay, tell me your story and let me see if I can, make sure that I'm getting everything I need to get out of it. But most people wrote their own stories. So that was
Okay.
the great thing about it. Yes.
Okay. But what made you even think about this? I feel like this would be a great coffee table book.
It is a
Um,
coffee table book.
yeah. What made you even like want to create something like this, though?
Good question. So I do a project with my students called Tell Someone Else's Story. Actually, I've been doing it for years.
Okay.
I'd be in Brooklyn, New York, when I was actually a college professor in New York. We would do the narrative genre, which is the narrative genre is, telling your story. And so
Okay.
coming from Brooklyn, I've had students that have all kind of stories. They're
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. Then I moved to Texas for like 4 years, and I taught college out there. And it was almost an all Caucasian college. And I was like one of the few Black professors. And they would say, Professor Baptiste, we don't have no story to tell. What are we supposed to talk about? We've lived here all our lives?
Uh-huh.
So I said, oh my goodness, I got to find a way for them to tell a story. So I took them to
Uh-huh.
refugee centers. I took
Mm-hmm.
them to like other places that had, people that were really have been through some real life experiences. So in doing that, I began this whole Tell Someone Else's Story project. I still do that with my students now. So even my students that take me 111 every fall semester, I have them go to the rehab centers or the
Mm-hmm.
hospitals or the elderly homes, and they have to pick up someone to tell someone else's story. So I've
Mm-hmm.
always been into storytelling. I think it's so important, and so I just took that concept and kind of created this book out of it.
What does your students typically walk away with after, is this an essay that they have to turn in?
Yes, they have to turn in
Okay.
an essay. Yeah, and I make it into a little book for them, a little booklet for them to take. And the good thing is that the first couple of years I did it at Nova, we did the rehab centers, and some of the patients had died. So they were
Mm.
actually able to take the book to their families and say, "Hey,
That
this
is
is
so good.
yeah, it was really amazing." But my students really get a lot from it. Some of my students come back and say, "Wow, we didn't even realize that people had these type of lives, especially when you're like telling stories of people who've been through war and are veterans, or people that have been, have had a lot of loss. And so sometimes, privilege takes on another meaning when you learn
Mm-hmm.
about somebody else's story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And life takes on a whole another meaning. So my students, they're exposed to someone's story that's unlike theirs, number one, and they're exposed to somebody who may not even be of their same culture, which is what I really recommend to my
Mm-hmm.
students, or same generational culture. It doesn't have to be like ethnic culture.
Yeah.
And so they get to learn the difference, before there were cell phones, before there were computers, before there were any of the social media or anything that was there. They get to tell these stories. And so they learn from it. A lot of them become volunteers for life. They volunteer at these homes and centers. And
Mm-hmm.
so I do a reflection paper, and my students love it. It's one of their favorite parts of the semester.
That's good. That's good. You got to give them something they like because
Yes.
when you in college, you like, oh.
Yes, exactly.
So, what is the overall message that you want readers to walk away with after reading your book, Black from Scratch?
I want readers to see all kinds of that Black people, our story does not begin with slavery, first of all, right? That we have a history and legacy of queens and kings, that we are overcomers innately, right?
Mhm.
That God would not have us go through such a traumatic past to not be strong as you said, and behind you create courageous people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have stories of all different ages, from people who have been in jail and had to come out and really make it. Yes, I have one of my students, and actually my ex-student was in there. He told a story about him going to jail.
Mm-hmm.
I have stories of women that have lost, went through miscarriages, have lost in their life, that have been molested, not being accepted in the family for different reasons. And so when people read the book, I want them to see these stories and feel like they can make it, that there's nothing that they can't do, nothing they can't overcome. People that have lost their jobs and had to start whole new careers,
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs, and to realize that the Black story is one of resilience and perseverance, and one of really love and strength, and and so that's what I want them to walk away with.
I think that is really that's really excellent that you actually created um, a resource for individuals to use as a motivational tool for themselves, because I know that there are so many times where we can be discouraged, but then I think when we think back and look at what our ancestors have gone through and accomplished,
Yes,
and they didn't have all this stuff.
that's
So
right.
that really makes us just look at our life and say, well, Martinique, you got a car. You don't need
That's
at the
right.
wall.
They was walking miles to school. I mean, from
Yes.
my mother's era. That's not too long ago.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So it makes you humble and it makes you grateful, but it also helps you to look deep within yourself to find out I am so much stronger than this. I
Yes.
am now in that
Yes.
place where I have to pull it out and I can make it. I think that is a great
Yes.
book. That is
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Please get it. You will love it. Yeah.
definitely, definitely. So, with so many books out there that really just talks about our past, present, and our future, and really just to motivate Black people to continue to strive and just make just some dynamic changes in the world, why should people purchase your book?
I think this book is totally different. First of all, like you said, it is a coffee table book, and I don't think there's any book out there like it. Okay,
Hmm.
to see like people, regular people that's your neighbors. We hear about the Beyoncés and the Tyler Perrys, and
Hmm.
all the time. And I'm not a hater.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love me
yeah.
some Beyonce. I love me some, anybody who's doing
Hmm.
it for the culture. I'm loving anybody who's doing it.
Yeah.
No matter what the cultural thing is. But I will say that I think that when you see stories of your everyday people of all different ages, and what they've been through, it makes you really look at yourself,
Hmm.
and so I think this is a unique book, that there are that you can pick it up and be like, oh wow, you may know somebody in there. I have people all over, and
Hmm.
you may say, oh my goodness, this is great, and oh, this person did it, this is what I went through, to share,
Yeah.
have those shared experiences are very important,
Hmm.
to anything, when you're reading, especially, that's when how you connect to any book. When I read something, I was like, oh yes, I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like that. Okay, I'm not the only one that went through that. It's not
Yeah.
just me.
Hmm. Hmm.
We all get down, we all get low, we've all settled, we've all, did some things that we weren't proud of, got into some relationships we weren't proud of. There are things that we have, these shared experiences that really should bring us closer and unified than to divide us.
Hmm. And when you were talking about our Beyonces and our Tyler Perrys, I also think about just the path that an individual walks on. Like,
Yes.
people aren't some people, a lot of people are not born celebrities, so
Yes,
they have to,
exactly.
there's a journey. And
Yes.
so, we are able to read about people's journey in their life, because who's to say, this person won't be somebody that,
That's
oh, I
right.
know such and such. Yeah,
That's right.
everybody knows this person. But I think it's so critical to be able to see and read about somebody's journey right then and there before they make it big.
Yes.
Because
Oh
I
my
just
gosh.
it's
Yes.
so
That's so
important.
important. Yes. No, you hit the nail on the head, because everybody just sees the ending of the
Hmm.
situation, right? Or the after effect, but they don't see the struggle that you
That's
went
good.
through For you get, I mean, I'm thinking about my years of being a writer and really trying to, go through it. I went through certain struggles, so many
Mm-hmm.
struggles. You don't really see, what it took for somebody to get there. So
That's good.
documenting people's stories before they make it is very important.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And not to say that everybody wants to be, a quadrillionaire or anything
No,
like
no,
that,
yes,
but
yes.
I just think it's so important because, especially on social media, we see so many times people telling us, "Oh, if you join my team, you gonna make X amount of dollars and all this other stuff." But
Yeah.
I need to figure out. I need to see somebody that's going through it. I need to see.
Yes.
I need to hear about these people's mistakes
Yeah,
and find out like
yeah.
what did not work because people don't want to
Yes.
talk about that stuff.
Yes, and not everybody, everything is for everybody, I mean, if you think about it, it's a lot of big push, be an entrepreneur, right? But
Yeah,
that's not the role for
that's
every
good.
person, right? It's a lot of people that can't do that. They can't leave their jobs and just, do that. So, I think it's important that people are authentic in their stories and really show the struggle and then say, hey, I made a mistake. Like if I would have done it over, I would have stayed on my job before I became, an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that that is important also, that you see that journey and people are able to open up about struggles and triumphs and tragedies that they had before they made
Mm-hmm.
it.
That's good. So, I know that you actually written a couple of other books. Can you tell us a
Yes.
little bit about those?
Oh, sure. Okay, so years ago, and I had those. I'm going to show them to you too.
Okay.
I wrote a book called Black Dresses Stain. This is it right here,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically a poetry short story book, and it was really for women. Black Dresses Stain just means that if you wear a black dress, any of us, you spill something on it, you don't see it, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So
that's good, girl. You are
get it?
deep.
Yes. So black dress sustain basically means that a lot of time as women, we wear the scars and we wear the stains of what we go through, but
Yeah.
we don't nobody sees it, and we
Yeah.
carry on and we primp and prance because we're wearing this dress and we're making ourselves beautiful, but inside we're bleeding. And so I tell stories, different stories of women, and I also tell like poetry. I have some poetry in there that really addresses women issues. So that's what that one is about. And this one is Relive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's a straight poetry book, no short stories in that one. But what that really does is address my story of what happened when I went through a divorce, and I felt like a death had taken place inside of me,
Mm-hmm.
a spiritual, emotional death, and I didn't realize how much had died. Like I didn't want to take selfies of myself. I didn't think I was beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
and because of everything that I went through, and I caught my husband in bed with another woman,
Mm-hmm.
and it made me look at everything over again. Like what in me has died, and in that death there was something reborn out of me and I was able to relive again, and my life has
Yeah.
been so much better and stronger than ever before.
Let me ask you something. With your Relive book,
Mhm.
why would you want to share such a intimate part of your life when you can just let that chapter close, you've healed from it, and then that be it? Why write a book about it so that people are constantly like possibly asking you questions about it so you can relive those situations again?
I think it's important that we tell our stories, I think it's important that we tell the stories that hurt us the most, there was a point in because what happened was I caught my husband in bed and I was arrested and I could have lost everything. And an online paper picked me up and they said, oh, look at this college professor. She got arrested. She's facing a felony. And so for a while, I was so depressed. Like, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose everything, and I was afraid to tell that story. I was afraid to let that story be known that I had lived this lie. Sometimes we could look good outside, but inside we're living a lie. And
Mhm.
so it was a release for me to be able to tell what really happened in my life and was going on. And I think I can heal women who have been through something the way that I have been through it, and to say, hey, I've been through it and I was able to come out on the other side, and life is good on the other side. You don't have to stay in that bad marriage. You don't have to stay in that abusive with that abusive person. You don't have to settle for this.
Mhm.
So that was the reason why. And let me clarify, me and my ex-husband are the best of friends. So it's no drama. I don't hate him. He's a great father to my kids, and I really we actually like each other as people now that we're not together.
Mhm.
But at that time, it was so traumatic for me, and I think that's even the healing too that I had to do. And maybe I don't know about his process, but in my process was really overcoming what I went through, and able to forgive myself before even forgive him, but forgive myself also,
Mhm.
for allowing myself to be a part of a situation like that. So that's why I tell the story, even though it's very personal.
Why did you say that part though? Allowing yourself to be a part of a situation like that, and you did not cause that that hardship on your life. Why did you say that part?
I said that because in the beginning of my marriage, I think we often ignore things that's going on.
Okay.
So when I look back, I know who I was marrying,
Oh,
but
okay.
yes, but a lot of time, so I'm not saying that like you're the cause of the situation, right? I don't take the blame, but I knew I was marrying. You see the signs, right? But I
Okay.
just felt like it's gonna change. It'll get better. I'm gonna
Okay.
pray till my knees turn gray. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
Jesus gonna capture him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he gonna heal the situation.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Can I just
And
tell you something? I'm sorry to cut you off, but it is
no,
so good to hear you laugh. And I'm serious. Like, because you went through that, I think it's
yes,
just so good to hear a person still be able to come to the other side and still be
yes.
able to laugh from it.
Yes. Girl, let me tell you, I've laughed more in this couple of years than ever because, when you become healed from things and you really go through it, you realize that you can laugh about it because it was
That's
really
good.
for you, for your strength, for your, it's part of my story that makes me and really has matured me to the level that I am today. Even with my children, the relationship I have with my children. So
Hmm.
I think it's important that I say that, it was nothing I could do to change this person. It was nothing.
Okay.
He had to want it for himself. And even though I don't take the blame for his actions, I do take culpability for me seeing signs and allowing things to continue, even though
Okay.
I didn't see change happening,
Hmm.
and to believe that at one point, like, this is as good as it gets and this is what I deserve, you know?
This is good, girl. I'm telling you, you
Yes.
are good.
Thank you.
I'm like, tell us more.
So I think that was so important for me to get to that point. And like I said, it was a process because
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to think that I'm being self-righteous. I was angry and pissed and
Hmm.
upset and like, oh my God, I'm gonna kill, and what am I gonna do? Like
Hmm.
I went through all those emotions.
Yeah.
And it took me like 2 to 3 years of therapy. Even now, like my therapist, if I need to see her every now and then, I'll say, hey, I just want to do a checkup with you just to make sure I'm on the right path.
Hmm. Hmm.
She'll see me, but it took 2 or 3 years of therapy for me to get to the right place in which I was able to say, breathe and be like, you got this, Chalet. You could do
That's
this,
good.
because there is a fear when you get through a divorce, especially when you have children. Like, how am I going to do this by myself? I'm going to be
Mhm.
lonely. Like, I love the institution of marriage. I love being married. I love being in relationships. And so it was hard for me to decide, oh my God, I'm going to have to do this alone. And how I'm going to get back out there. And things have changed. And is
Mhm.
somebody going to love me like that? But when you begin to really get to know yourself and love yourself, I mean, I take myself to the movies, I take myself to plays. I love
Mhm.
my own company. So
Yeah.
it's different. It's different.
Talk to our viewers about being a Christian and still going to therapy.
Oh man, I tell you something that's so important. I love my dad. My dad is a pastor, so I'm actually a PK's kid.
Okay.
Yes, but he believed in therapy for a long time. He is quick to tell somebody you need therapy.
Yeah. Like, I can't do it. Let's set you up for
No,
an
no, you need
appointment.
some therapy, okay?
Uh-huh.
And then my mom is a guidance counselor. So
Okay.
Yes, she's a guidance counselor, and she was a supervisor of guidance in the school district, New York. And so my dad is always, and my mom, even though she was a guidance counselor, she wasn't really too keen on the whole therapist thing, But my dad was always like, no, talk to it. And actually, it was in me doing it that I began to see the value of it. And you have to have the right
Mhm.
therapist. I will say that, because if you don't have a connection with someone in a therapy, you're not going to feel as comfortable as opening it up, and you're not going to respect what they have to say. So I will say that my therapist was so real with me. She
Mhm.
was so real. She was like, and you accepted that. And why did you accept that? And
Mhm.
did you honor yourself in that situation?
Mhm.
And, so she was so honest and so upfront with me and gave me the hard hits, and
Mhm.
gave me homework assignments that it caused me to force myself to look at myself.
That's
Right.
good. Mhm.
And so I think that's important. People always say therapy, but it's also in choosing the right therapist, choosing one you feel comfortable with, being honest with yourself, not hiding things from your therapist, being able to say, I got a problem, and so I think as a Christian, we always think that we could just pray and take it to God and he's going to like just do it. But even the Bible says faith without works is dead. And my works was
Mhm.
going to therapy. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I do believe prayer is amazing, and I do believe that God can change any situation in an instant, and I do believe that God is, the author and the finisher of my faith, and I do
Mhm.
believe that, in everything spiritual, that there have been like miraculous transformations through
Yes.
Christ. But I also believe that there are some things that God wants us to work on, because the process makes us a stronger Christian,
Mhm.
and the process makes us a stronger person. And you even when you read stories in the Bible, God didn't ever just give anybody anything, right? He made
Mhm.
people work for it, right? I'm thinking about like marching around a wall 7 times before they were able to win the war. It's just
Mhm.
these stories after stories of God giving strategic direction and plans from people of God to be able to do the things that they needed to do.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Um, she know her word, y'all. She knows that
Yes,
she'll
yes.
CPAC. That's good. So now I know that you're also a speaker. What type of events do you actually enjoy speaking at?
Well, to tell you the truth, I speak for my career. I'm always speaking when it comes to my students, right? My students, this is what I do every day. I'm speaking. But lately, I've been doing a lot of speaking about relationships and women issues, because that's clear and dear to my heart. But then I'm in this PhD program, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
always speaking at conferences about African American rhetoric. That's one thing that I'm studying, and
Okay.
how African American identity plays a role in the way that people see African Americans and Black
Mm.
people. And so I do a lot of presentations on the Black intellectual as part of my, what I also speak about in my PhD program, my doctorate, when I go to conferences and stuff like that. I've done some conferences internationally, so that's been cool, just to be able to
Mm-hmm.
speak to people who don't even know about the African American experience at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those are my topics of choice.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So now, if you all are interested in Chalet actually coming to any of your events to speak at, make sure you reach out to her through her website. Her website is listed in the description box. If you're interested in purchasing any of her books, also make sure you visit her website. She does respond on Facebook as well. So make sure you
Yes,
send her a friend request first and then send her that message after she accepts the friend request, because there are
yes,
so many messages that I found in my little box.
yes.
I'm like, where did these 2017?
I know, I know.
But if you are interested in just having Chalet come to any of your events, make sure you reach out to her. Her books sound awesome. Make sure you take time and read those. If you are a part of any type of women's group and you are the coordinator, I'm telling you, it sounds like these books will really be a blessing to your ladies in those groups as well. Chalet, thank you so much for just
Thank
being on the
you.
show and being
Thank you.
transparent just
Yes.
about your life.
Yes, yes. I hope I've helped someone out there. And thank you for listening. Thank you.
You are welcome. And I thank you all for taking time to watch another episode of Author Signal and their books to read. Make sure you visit us on our websites as well as follow and like our Facebook pages, because when you actually follow our Facebook pages, you will actually be notified of different posts that we have as well. Make sure you also go to my YouTube channel and subscribe there. Again, if you enjoyed the shows that I produce, I would love for you to go to my GoFundMe page or my PayPal link, and you can give a financial gift in any amount. I hope you guys have a great night, and we will talk to you all later. Bye
All
bye.
right, bye bye.